down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid, lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And I'm sorry I'm a little somber tonight because I'm going to start the show a little different than what I normally do. We have a very somber occasion. Today, 2 years ago, due to Joe Biden's lack of a grasp on foreign policy, 13 young soldiers gave their lives in probably the worst debacle and pullout since the Vietnam War and the fall of Saigon. And, the sad part about it is that these people did not have to die. They gave their lives, their checks, as I've talked about on this program before, their checks to the United States government were cashed and paid in full with their lives. And it is a sad, sad day for all of us, especially those of us who have served. We are aware, every single one of us, we are aware that when we sign our name on all of those papers, it's probably one of the worst in terms of the number of signatures and initials that you have to do. It's probably one of the worst next to buying a house. But every single one of us are aware that when we walk in and we raise our hand and take that oath, an oath that never expires, that it is a potential that one day we will have to give up our lives in service to our country. And so tonight I wanted to do a couple of things. I want to start off with this whole thing, and then I'll get to my normal, regularly scheduled kind of program after this. But tonight I wanted to start off by reading a excerpt from the very beginning of the book Kabul, The Untold Story of Biden's Fiasco and the American Warriors Who Fought to the End. It is very, very sobering. I showed you this on Wednesday, and I just bought the book. But it's very sobering to read some of the things that start. And I'm sorry, I know this is a somber occasion, folks. So I'm trying to keep it that way because this is, I mean, soldiers are near and dear to my heart. And they all are, you just can't imagine what these people go through for the little amount of pay that they get, the little amount of appreciation that they get in some cases, and so on and so forth. So first of all, I wanted to point out that the book that I'm reading from, again, it's Kabul, The Untold Story of Biden's Fiasco and the American Warriors Who Fought to the End, written by Jerry Dunleavy and James Hassan, however it's pronounced. You can pick it up on Amazon or wherever other booksellers are sold. And I'd highly recommend picking it up. I mean, I really would, because I'm really interested to see what is in the pages. But the dedication in the beginning is to the 13 Americans who gave their lives in Kabul on August 26th, 2021, so that others might live. To the 2,448 other Americans killed in action in Afghanistan before them. And to every American service member who served beside them. So this is part of the prologue, and the part that I'm going to read you is basically describing in words what it was like at that gate. Abbey Gate, Hamid Karzai International Airport, Kabul, Afghanistan, August 26th, 2021. The crowd was packed shoulder to shoulder. Every man, woman, and child shouted and waved pieces of paper, their contents indiscernible, in frantic attempts to gain attention of the U.S. Marines and Air Force special operators standing on the wall above them. The promise of a new life lay just beyond the Americans guarding the gates. Sunset was less than an hour away, but the temperature exceeded 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air was filled with the stench of sweat and human excrement from the desperate souls who had been waiting outside for days with nowhere else to relieve themselves. There was no respite other than a dry wind periodically blowing from east to west, away from the gate and down the canal full of civilians struggling to shove their way to the front. Most of the crowd had no reason to be there. They had no connection to the U.S. government and no legitimate claim to U.S. protection. Many had remained on the sidelines during the decades-long fight against the Taliban, but most of them posed no active threat either. They knew that Afghanistan's U.S.-backed government was no more, and that Sharia law enforced by the Taliban was on the horizon, and they desperately wanted to find a way out. Some had shown up because they had sincerely believed social media posts saying that the Americans would take anyone who wanted to leave. For men such as Amir, and they had put his name in quotes because I'm sure that's not his name, the others' motives didn't matter. He had a right to be there, and he was trying to push through the throngs to take his wife and 4 children to safety. He served as an interpreter for the U.S. Special Operations Unit and the Defense Intelligence Agency for nearly a decade. As such, he had an advantage over the hordes holding up clearly forged admission documents. U.S. troops were looking for him and given him a call sign to confirm his identity. The U.S. veterans and intelligence operatives that he'd served alongside, now back in the United States, had arranged it. Amir could see Abbey Gate. He took a picture of the troops standing on the wall so they'd know where to look, and another of the call sign that he'd been told to paint on a placard. Pale Rider. Then he took one more of his 2 sons and 2 daughters standing below him in the crowd. His younger son stood on the far left of the frame, and his 2 daughters stood on the right. His older daughter, 6 years old, with soft brown eyes, gazed directly into the camera with an inquisitive smile. His younger daughter, the baby of the family, was distracted by the ongoing commotion and blissfully unaware of the moment. Between his younger son and the daughters stood his oldest child, an 8-year-old boy with large eyes, tousled hair, and a troubled expression. He seemed to be the only one who realized that things weren't okay. At 5:30 p.m., Amir sent the photos to his handlers in the United States, who would in turn relay them to the troops waiting for his family. His family was 100 feet away from freedom. The U.S.-based operatives acknowledged his message and replied with further instructions, but Amir's transmissions went silent. A few minutes later, 3rd Platoon of Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, known as the 2-1, gathered 1,250 feet away for a group photo. In less than an hour, they'd begun their final shift at Abbey Gate. Their platoon sergeant tried best to capture a moment to commemorate what they'd endured together. He took a few shots, then told the platoon to turn 90 degrees and face toward the gate, where the fading sunlight offered the best picture. The Marines first saw a flash of light, and then the concussion of a blast in their chests. For a few seconds, everyone remained frozen in place, while their brains attempted to process the sensory overload. Reality set in as body parts started raining down on the cement around them. the entire platoon sprinted toward the gate. By nightfall, military officials had announced that 13 U.S. service members had been killed in action in a suicide bombing at the entrance to the airfield. 11 Marines, a Navy corpsman, and an Army staff sergeant from a special operations unit. At least 170 civilians were killed in the blast as well. Amir's oldest son was among them. That just gives you an idea of what the chaos. I don't know if anybody actually watched, but I've seen some videos of what happened there at the gate, and some of the imagery and videos that came out from that day that I can recall, and it is just you just can't even imagine. You can't even imagine how much chaos there was running around. There were people handing up their babies up to people on the wall to try and get them out. And even if you can get a remote inkling of what was going through these people's heads as the Americans basically put up a big, unadulterated F you to all of those people that helped them out. I can't even imagine. I can't even think about what goes through somebody's head when they're in that situation. And all of those people, especially those young children, think about those children, especially the young girls that were born under the blanket of freedom that the United States military had provided from the Taliban. And now all of a sudden they are going to learn Sharia law. They are going to learn the disgusting barbarianism that particular sect of people are going to rain down upon these young girls and these women. They were too young to even remember what Sharia law was like before. And our president decided, when he didn't have to, by the way, decided that that he was going to pull out. So I can't even imagine. So tonight I want to start off by, as soon as I can find my cursor here, tonight I want to start off finding out showing the 13 people and giving you an indication, or giving you a little bit about each one of these people as I go through and as you watch their photos. So these are the 13 who lost their life on that day in Kabul that I just described. This is Marine Corps Lance Corporal David Espinoza. He's 20 years old, of Rio Bravo, Texas. He apparently, before he died, according to KGNS, which is a radio station, I think, or a television station, Elizabeth Hogan told a local TV station that she's trying to make sense of the death of her son, Lance Corporal David Espinoza. According to KGNS, Hogan received a phone call at 2:30 a.m. from the military to inform her that Espinoza had been killed in the explosion at Kabul airport. "He was a great kid. We never had trouble with him. Nothing," she said of her son. "He never got into trouble. He was a great guy, very proud of him." Espinoza's stepfather, Victor Manuel Dominguez, became a part of his life at age 3, but Dominguez saw him as his own. "He was never my stepson, and I was never his stepfather," he said. Texas Rep Henry Cuellar released a statement on Facebook saying this: "David Espinoza, a Laredo native Marine killed in Afghanistan, embodied the values of America: grit, dedication, service, and valor. When he joined the military after high school, he did so with the intention of protecting our nation and demonstrating his selfless acts of service. I mourn him and all the fallen heroes in Afghanistan. This is Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole L. Gee, 23, of Sacramento, California. She was the one that I had talked about in a previous episode a couple weeks back about how the federal government wasn't going to ship her body from California to Arlington National Cemetery. Here's a little bit about her. In 2016, Sergeant Nicole Gee, or G, graduated from Oakmont High School. Her husband, fellow Marine Jared Gee, is also a graduate of Oakmont, the Sacramento Bee reports. Just days before her death, G posted a photo on Instagram of herself in uniform while holding a baby in Afghanistan with the caption, "I love my job." Another of her photos, posted more recently, shows her posing near a cargo plane as a line of people wait to board from the back. The photo is captioned, "Escorting evacuees into the bird." Posting on social media, Roseville City officials called Gee our hometown hero and offered their unwavering support to her family, according to the Sacramento Bee. This is Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, 31, of Salt Lake City, Utah. Utah Governor Spencer Cox released a statement shortly after the incident, offering condolences to Hoover's family and saying he was devastated by the Marine's death. Cox noted that Hoover died while helping to evacuate U.S. citizens and Afghans seeking asylum. Cox said, Staff Sergeant Hoover served valiantly as a Marine and died serving his fellow countrymen as well as Americans, allies in Afghanistan. We honor his tremendous bravery and commitment to his country, even as we condemn the senseless violence that resulted in his death. Because Cox was the governor, he ordered the flags on state and public grounds to until sunset on the Monday following that statement. The Desert News reported that tributes to Hoover poured into his Facebook page, including one from Hoover's father, who is also named Darren. "So glad I got to see him before he left. I love you, son. You're my hero," the elder Hoover wrote. "Please check in on us once in a while, and I'll make you proud. I'll try to make you proud." Let me introduce you to Army Staff Sergeant Ryan C. Noss, 23, of Corryton, Tennessee. Speaking of her husband's death, his wife, Alexa Noss, said the couple were blissfully happy, but that he would have no regrets. For him, it's the ultimate honor he could give back to his country, she told Knoxville's WBIR Channel 10. To help these people and to know he was helping people, he would not be sorry. He would not regret it. Noss also told another local television station, "The last thing I texted him was, 'Hey, I love you. When you get the chance, I know you are busy, but can you please just text me and let me know you are okay?' He never got to respond to that text." Since joining the Army in 2016, the same year the high school sweethearts were married, Noss, who was assigned to the 8th Psychological Operations Group at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, had risen quickly up the Army's enlisted ranks. She said from high school, Noss was determined to join the Army. "I think the only person he was scared for was for me. He did not question his job. If they needed him in the middle of the woods at 4 a.m., he'd be in the middle of the woods at 4 a.m. If they needed him in Afghanistan in 30 minutes, he'd be there." Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22, of Indio, California. Lopez was the son of two Riverside County Sheriff Department officers, Captain Herman Lopez and Deputy Alicia Lopez. The department announced Lopez's death on the Friday after it happened. Sheriff Chad Bianco said on Facebook that Lopez planned on following his parents' footsteps and joining the department as a deputy when he got home from his deployment. He said, "Hunter, thank you for your service to our community and our country. My thoughts and prayers are with your family." Before joining the Marines, Lopez participated in the department's career-oriented Explorer program from 2014 to 2017 while he was in high school, according to the sheriff's office. Let me introduce you to Marine Lance Corporal Riley J. McCollum, 20, of Jackson, Wyoming. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon tweeted on the Friday after the incident, thanking McCollum for his service and sending condolences to his family. "I'm devastated to learn Wyoming lost one of our own in yesterday's terrorist attack in Kabul," Gordon said. "Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of Riley McCollum of Bondurant. Bondurant? I don't know. It's pronounced, it's kind of spelled weird. Jenny and I, along with all of Wyoming and the entire country, thank Riley for his service." McCollum's father, Jim, told the New York Times that McCollum was helping with evacuations and guarding a checkpoint when the attack at the airport happened. His father said this was McCollum's first deployment and that he had gotten married recently. His wife is expecting with their first child. I would imagine that child obviously is a couple years old. McCollum's sister Cheyenne told the East Idaho News that her brother was going to be the best dad. Cheyenne said her brother was the youngest of 4 siblings, her single father's only son, and that he knew he wanted to be a Marine from a young age. "He was a kid that touched everybody's heart," Cheyenne said. "He was a wrestler since he was 4. He knew he was going to be a Marine since he was at about that same age. He used to walk around in just a diaper and his sister's pink princess boots, carrying his toy rifle and play like he was in the Army or a Marine." His sister and his father told the Times that McCollum was a beautiful soul and that the family couldn't have been more proud of him. Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan R. Marola, 20, of Rancho Cucamonga, California. Corporal Marola was a graduate of Los Osos High School, according to ABC 7 of Los Angeles. A lot of our Chafford Joint Union High School District School Board member Gil Zendejas was quoted in the Daily Bulletin as saying, "A lot of our students commit to the military after they get out of school, and we're so proud of them. Our hearts and prayers go out to his family and friends. Unfortunately, we have another Gold Star family in our district." Students on the Friday following wore red, white, and blue to honor Marola during Los Osos High School's first football game of the season. Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nakui, 20, of Norco, California. Norco Mayor Kevin Bash told ABC 7 that Nakui died helping to save families of Afghans who had aided the U.S. government. "My understanding is that he rescued, per a sergeant that wrote the family, he rescued 3 families. And he was in the process of saving children translators that had worked for the U.S. government. He passed off a child and went back into the crowd, and that's when the bomb went off." Nakui had graduated from Norco High School in 2019, where he was a member of the JROTC program. For those of you that don't know, that's the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Nakui's father, Steve, told the Daily Beast that his son loved what he was doing and always wanted to be a Marine. "He really loved that Marine Corps family," Steve told the Daily Beast. "He was devoted. He was going to make a career out of this, and he wanted to go. No hesitation for him to be called to duty. City of Norco says it plans to put Nakui's name on the Lest We Forget wall at George A. Ingalls Veterans Memorial Plaza, which honors city residents who made the ultimate sacrifice while serving our nation. Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Sergeant Johanny Rosario Picardo, 25, of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Rosario was assigned to the 5th Marine Expeditionary Brigade Naval Support Activity, Bahrain, according to the Department of Defense and the Associated Press. The mayor of her hometown in Lawrence, Mass. Issued a statement after her death was announced, saying the city was heartbroken by the news. Calling Rosario a daughter of the city, Kendrys Vasquez said that he had been in touch with the family and offered his most sincere condolences and offer all of the aid that my administration can provide as they grieve this great loss. The Embassy of the Dominican Republic in Washington, D.C. offered its condolences in a tweet to the young woman of Dominican origin, Picardo, 25, who was one of the victims of the recent terrorist attack at the airport in Kabul, Afghanistan. Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Corporal Humberto A. Sanchez, 22, of Logansport, Indiana. Sanchez, who was a 2017 graduate of Logansport High School, was a promising athlete, academic, and devoted art student at the school, according to the principal, Matt Jones. Jones tweeted that Sanchez serving our country in uniform and sacrifice. Chris Martin, the mayor of Logansport, a city of about 18,000 located in north central Indiana, called on others to continue the ripple effect of making positive change in our world. In a Facebook post, Martin continued of Sanchez, any plans he may have had for his post-military life were given in sacrifice due to the heart he exhibited in putting himself into harm's way to safeguard the lives of others. Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared M. Schmitz, 20, of St. Charles, Missouri. Schmitz was on his first deployment, having been sent from Jordan to help with the evacuation efforts. His father, Mark Schmitz, tells the Morning Edition that from a young age, Jared was constantly happy. If you had the opportunity to look through our photo albums, you would see that no matter how we captured him on camera, he was always smiling nonstop. Jared wanted to be a Marine from his sophomore year of high school. Jared wasn't the studious type, Mark says, but once he set his mind on it, he was laser focused on learning everything he could about the Marines. He had to have his parents' permission when he signed up at the age of 17. I can't even hold a candle to that young man, his father says. He taught me so much. He's a hell of an American, a true hero in every sense of the word. I'll never see my son get married, Mark Schmidt says. I'll never see him do anything, provide me grandkids, anything. It's all gone now. It didn't need to happen. It shouldn't have happened. But love our military, support these guys, all of them. Lexi Correa, Schmitz's former girlfriend, whom he kept in touch with, told Fox 2 News St. Louis that she will miss his laugh the most. You could be having the worst day ever, and just a phone call from him would make your day so much better, she said. She also said that she also joined the military and that Schmitz was obsessed with the local hockey team, the St. Louis Blues, and remembered a watch party where he got so excited that when we won the Stanley Cup. Let me introduce to you Navy Hospital Corpsman Maxton W. Soviak, 22, of Berlin Heights, Ohio. The Soviak family released a statement on Saturday following the event about the loss of their son Max, who they say planned to make a career out of his Navy service. The statement said, "Words cannot express how heartbroken we are with the news, and we will miss Max tremendously. We are struggling to come with grips with this personal tragedy and prefer to grieve with close friends and family." His family said that Max was most proud of being a Navy corpsman and Devil Doc, not Devil Dog, but Devil Doc for his Marines. The statement said Max leaves behind a big family of 12 brothers and sisters. Multiple Ohio lawmakers released statements about Max's death, including Senator Rob Portman, Representative Macy Capter, and Representative Tim Ryan. All of them expressed their condolences for his family and friends. Our nation mourns the loss of Navy Corpsman Max Soviak, whose uncommon courage in the face of unfathomable danger ensured the safe passage of countless civilians. Capter said in her statement, "We will never be able to repay the debt we owe him, but we will be forever grateful for his willingness to serve when America needed him most. Our hearts go out to the family during this time, and we lift them up in prayer that they may find comfort in his memory." Let me introduce you to Marine Corps Corporal Deegan M. Page, 23, of Omaha, Nebraska. Page served in 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Regiment based at Camp Pendleton, California. He joined the Marines after graduating Millard High School in Omaha. He grew up in Nebraska and Iowa, his family said in a statement published in the Omaha World Herald. He was a Boy Scout who played hockey in his youth. He was a die-hard Chicago Blackhawks fan, the family said. Page had a tough outer shell and a giant heart, and had the words "Death Before Dishonor" tattooed on his chest, the statement said. Family started a public Facebook page on his behalf. Omaha Mayor Gene Stilbert announced in a Facebook post that the city was planning to show its support by lining Abbott Drive near Epley Airport, bring flags, signs, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the 13 people, young, and I do say young, because at my age, all of them are young. They were the young people who gave up their lives. They had their government cash that check for them, unfortunately. And it didn't have to happen, to be honest with you. Now, all of this that I've been reading to you comes from, believe it or not, an NPR article that was updated on October 25th in 2021. And just so you know, the U.S. House of Representatives had voted at that time to posthumously award the Congressional Gold Medal to the 13 service members killed in a bomb attack in Kabul this summer. The bill to honor the fallen service members was introduced by Michigan Republican Representative Lisa McClain and was co-sponsored by a bipartisan group of more than 300 representatives. For those of you that don't know, the Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest medal, the highest award that you as a military service member can be given. And it is respected by all service members. It doesn't matter if the person wearing it is a private. The highest general in the service will have to salute that private if they are wearing the Congressional Medal of Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, this didn't have to happen. These people did not have to die. So, in honor of them, I would like to take a moment and play taps. Please join me in removing your hats and respecting that time, this time, for them. All right, folks. Thank you for that. I think it's a requirement that we do this, that we honor our fallen, honor our dead, and more than just on Memorial Day. These people have done something and that no one should have to do, and that's pass their lives on to for their country. We really shouldn't be at this moment in time, believe it or not, but it is what it is, and it's sad, and we need to remember these people. We need to remember the fallen. We need to remember the people who have passed in honor and service to this country. Sorry, I'm a little choked up. All right. Okay, so let's get on with a little bit of the rest of the show. Okay, so tonight I am drinking Buffalo Trace. Here you go. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And damn, this is gonna be this is gonna be tough. Sorry. Anyway, it's in my We the People American shot glass. You can find those at luckyshotUSA.com. luckyshotUSA.com to pick those up. I hate that. Anyway, all right. And of course, for tonight's sponsor, the Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Check this out. This is a almost 1/8 inch of Saddleback leather, rounded corners. These pages are water resistant, and check out that binding. It is a thread stitched that goes all the way through the leather on the back side. It is buddy tested and also Billy tested, mother and approved, both of them. Also, my youngest Whiskey Warrior has used this in order to pass his civics exams for his badges in the Scouts. They have a 100-year warranty against materials and workmanship, where they will either fix or replace this item. Head on over to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and order yours today to learn about our founding document, the Constitution of the United States. I refer to this thing all the time. I have it right here on my desk within an arm's reach at all times. And then do me a favor, head on over to the Institute on the Constitution and check out their stuff as well at iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Go check them out today, and I thank them for being a affiliate and sponsor. All right. Next up is On This Day in American History. And for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac. It is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full of all kinds of factoids and things of American founding, and just all sorts of information. I mean, it even has the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States in its entirety. In its entirety in the middle of it. Also with flags and other history facts. It's chock full with them. You can pick them up at anywhere books are sold. All right. Tonight is August 26th. Firsts in the USA. On August 26th, 1873, the St. Louis, Missouri Board of Education established the first public school kindergarten in the U.S. It was directed by Susan E. Blow. The kindergarten opened the following September in the Des Perez School with 42 students. Here's a listing of some other firsts for the U.S. The first library was founded in Charleston, South Carolina, established in 1698. The first successful newspaper was founded in Boston, Massachusetts, and was published in 1704, known as the Boston News Letter. The first theater building was built in Williamsburg, Virginia, in 1728. The first public museum was built and founded in Charleston, South Carolina, and it was organized in 1773. First cathedral was in Baltimore, Maryland, built from 1806 to 1851. The first railroad station was also in Baltimore, Maryland, built by B&O Railroad in 1830. First department store was in Vincennes, Indiana, opened in 1842 by Adam Gimbel. The first passenger elevator was in New York City, New York. It was installed in 1857 by Elijah Otis. An Otis elevator still exists today, by the way. The first cable car was in San Francisco, California, and it began operating in 1873. The first zoo was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, opened in 1874. The first electric streetlights was in Wabash, Indiana, and they were installed in 1880. And the first skyscraper was in Chicago, Illinois. It was 10 stories tall, and it was built in 1885. And that is today's On This Day in American History. All right, well, speaking about Kabul and the horrible thing that happened there 2 years ago, apparently the Gold Star the Gold Star families haven't really been told much of anything either. So let me and I apologize. Their picture, I think their picture is going to come up maybe. Oh, nope, taps played. Sorry. Let me stop that. My apologies. That's technical difficulties. And let me get my webcam back up. There we go. All right. So this from the Daily Mail, I mentioned it on Wednesday, but this from the Daily Mail, the Gold Star mom, who it was Paula Noss. You'll remember him from the pictures that I just showed you. Paula Noss said that President Biden, while she was sitting there crying in the Oval Office, he basically asked her, do you want to get a photo with me? He asked for a photo op. And she apparently was, all she was asking for was just what happened? This is the young man. He's the Army sergeant, and the mom. And there's some more photos of him as a young kid, apparently. But during a meeting in his Oval Office, Biden told her, "I can understand if you're angry." I stood face to face with him, eyeball to eyeball, the mom says, saying that she began to weep. "It never should have happened this way," she told the president. "He stood there so stoically," she recounted, as opposed to actually getting an apology or the hug or a hug. Nothing out of his mouth except, "Well, would you like to get a photo with me?" I can't believe this guy. I really can't. Anyway, she apparently responded that she would only like a picture if it was with the president next to her son's tombstone at Arlington National Cemetery. And Biden says, "I can't do that because the Secret Service won't let me do that." She told the Daily Mail about the exchange and said, "It's a moral disgrace for a president not to have mercy on the people that he serves. It's a moral disgrace." He thought that the sad occasion was a photo op rather than realizing it was a moment in time that he can never get back with a mother who was grieving over her child, and he had a chance to make a difference, she continued. "He had a chance to make a difference for my child on not making decisions and indecisions that cost him his life, and I do hold him accountable," she continued. Apparently Mark Miley apologized to her at an event in Florida, although he is not innocent to what happened to her son, she said of Mark Miley, Mark Milley. She said she holds more respect for him for looking her in the eyes and saying, "I am so sorry for what happened." But apparently she's not the only one questioning. Here from the Washington Examiner, 13 families, all with different backgrounds, living in different cities across the country, have a trauma bond that connects them. They lost a son, brother, daughter, or sister on August 26, 2021, when a suicide bomber killed them and nearly 200 people in total in Afghanistan. They are all trying to figure out what happened, and they are all mad at Joe Biden, and what they believe is a perceived lack of accountability for the decisions that led up to the bombing. Cheryl Rex, the mother of Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, told the Washington Examiner, "It never gets easier. Every day is a struggle. For every birthday, holiday, it just feels like it hits all over again." The State Department released a 21-page after-action review focusing on the Biden administration's final months in Afghanistan in July, which praised both embassy officials and U.S. troops for their role in what ultimately became the largest non-combatant evacuation operation in history, but also acknowledged the department's shortcomings, including not being ready for worst-case scenarios. Darren Hoover, who is the father of Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, told the Washington Examiner, "With this being the second anniversary, I think the first one we were still in a state of mourning, I guess would be a good way to put it. And we still are, don't get me wrong. This one now that has come up, and we've not gotten anything from the administration or anything from the Department of Defense or from the Marine Corps or the State Department. It's to the point now that we're pissed off, and we want answers. You know, he gave his life for this country, and he loved this country." Details from the declassified after-action review of the Afghanistan NEO from the U.S. Central Command revealed that the Taliban, while aiding U.S. troops at the airport by providing an outer ledge of security, did not conduct an assault on a building that the U.S. suspected was where ISIS-K members were staging the bombing. Additionally, Marine Sergeant Tyler Vargas Andrews emotionally recounted the bombing, in which he lost an arm and a leg, We saw his video, by the way, last on Wednesday, stating that he had identified a suspect he still believes to be the bomber beforehand, but was not given the green light by his superiors to take out the threat. He says, at this point today, I'm so mad because they have not one chance, but two chances to put the ISIS-K bomber, the guy that had the bomb, twice, and they didn't do anything. This was Coral Brasenio, the mother of Humberto Sanchez, told the Washington Examiners. They have better options to get the troops out of the country, and they chose the worst. So I just feel that the military or government never cared about our kids. Well, to be honest with you, I don't. I mean, they could have done that a hell of a lot better. In fact, they didn't even need to do it. They didn't even need to do it. But anyway, it's just disgusting. I'm sorry. It horrible. This whole thing was horrible. All right. Let me move on to something a little less depressing. Just a little less depressing. So apparently the Biden administration has decided that they're not just going to go after our appliances, our gas appliances, our gasoline cars, force us to use electric. But check this out. This popped in Fox News and other outlets this week. Biden's alcohol czar. I hate that term. Why do you use the term czar? Czar is Russian. It just disgusting. Anyway, says that the U.S. may follow Canada and limit beers to 2 a week. The American alcohol consumption recommendations are up for review in 2025. And according to the article here, the president's alcohol czar says Americans may be told by officials to have no more than 2 beers a week. Good thing they're attacking beer and not whiskey. Anyway, sorry, I digress. They actually mean 2 drinks is what they mean, but they're focusing on beers for whatever reason. Anyway, the director of the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, George Koob, Koob, told the Daily Mail on Thursday that the U.S. may follow Canada's footsteps on alcohol guidelines. Currently, American guidelines recommend men limit themselves to 2 drinks per day, while women should only have 1 drink. The American recommendations are up for review in 2025. Canadian guidelines recommend only having 2 drinks per week. Koob, who said he partakes of a couple of glasses of buttery Californian Chardonnay a week, said he was watching the Canadian big experiment with interest. If there's health benefits, I think people will start to reevaluate where we're at. All right. Well, Mr. Koob and the American what is it? Alcohol czar, I guess. That's him. That's the same one. Guess what, buddy? Let me just show you something. I got a big old double-barreled, family-friendly, only because I don't want to piss people off, family-friendly middle finger for you here, pal. Right here on the Whiskey Musings broadcast, we'll drink what the hell we want, when we want, because you're not paying for our health and everything else. So here's to you, buddy. A drink. Goodbye. Kiss my white rear end. And we already tried with the 18th Amendment prohibition, so bite me. Idiots. God, they just want to control our lives. I don't get this. But hey, you know what? In a really quick reversal, see, the Biden administration for the longest time has just been ignoring the Constitution completely. I mean, he's been doing it with the whole OSHA mask mandates. He was doing it with the shots. He was doing it, and which, by the way, are sounding like they're going to be coming back around potentially. Okay. But he also has been doing it with all of those things on our appliances, our cars, etc., etc. But hey, guess what? The White House apparently claims, according to this Washington Examiner piece that popped today, the White House claims it can't assist with New York with the migrant crisis without Congress approval. The White House has finally decided to follow the Constitution here. Instead of ruling by executive order fiat. So I don't know if you guys remember, maybe you didn't see it. I know I didn't present it here, but Governor Kathy Hochul of New York made a video plea for President Joe Biden to assist with New York's migrant crisis on Friday, claiming its ability to help the state was limited. The White House responded and said that its ability to help the state was limited without congressional authorization. New York City has witnessed a major influx of migrants over the past year with the help of Florida and Texas, by the way, with more than 100,000 migrants flooding the city from the United States southern border since the spring of 2022. Hochul requested federal assistance to help with the costs associated with the crisis on Thursday, but a White House spokesperson claimed help from Congress was needed instead. Oh, welcome to a hard lesson in the way that the actual Congress and what they have in control of in the Constitution. Yeah, your buddies in the administration are basically flipping you the double-barreled family friendly. What a mess. Anyway, it continues on here. The spokesperson says this administration has worked to identify ways to improve efficiencies and maximize the resources the federal government can provide to communities across the country to support the flow of migrants. The spokesperson told CNN, we will continue to partner with communities across the country to ensure they can receive the support they need. Only Congress can provide additional funding for these efforts, which this administration has already requested. And only Congress can fix the broken immigration system. Well, for once, you know the old saying, clock can be right twice a day. A broken clock can be right twice a day. Yeah. This is just, oh my gosh, whatever. The federal government apparently has contributed only $145 million in direct funding for the New York's migrant crisis so far, but hey, they can send billions across to freaking Ukraine. Anyway, and approved lodging for asylum seekers at Floyd Bennett Field on Monday. The Department of Homeland Security has also sent an assessment team to work with state and local officials, according to an administration official. Hochul requested reimbursement and resources for transportation, food, and lodging for the migrants, and faster approval for work authorizations. Hochul said that the only thing stopping the migrants in New York City from getting work was red tape from the federal government, which had fallen behind on approving the authorizations. Yeah. Yes, I see. Ceiling fans. They are there. I get it. Redford, yep. Ceiling fans are another thing. They're going after ceiling fans, appliances. I mean, is there anything that this freaking administration won't go after? Folks, I'm telling you, 2024 can't get here fast enough. And we realistically, there is no other choice. I'm gonna digress here. I'm gonna take a second here and just get off the track. Okay, but I'm gonna take a digression here and essentially tell you that 2024 is make or break for America. You know, I never thought I would be saying that. I really did. I mean, I've always gone long on America. I really have. But at the same time, though, 2024 is make or break. Okay. We have to get people out who normally wouldn't vote to vote. We have to get people out. We have to get there is just no way. There's no way that we can allow the Democrats to stay in power. And I'm not just talking about the presidency. I'm talking about the entire ticket. Someone once asked me, they said, well, if I'm going and doing this and, looking at the ballot and I have no idea what these people stand for or whatever. And I pretty much said, and this is true, no matter what, when in doubt, vote red. Because no matter what happens, the Democrats are almost, as Dan Bongino says, the Republicans may not be the answer to your problems, but the Democrats are most certainly the cause of them. And he is so right. If you look at where we are today in all of the things that we've got going on, this is 100% the fault of the Democrats. I don't know if you folks noticed, but today is also like International Women's Day or something like that. And all of our favorite Democrat users on X and Twitter and everything else, they all freaking have been posting about women and women's rights, and we're losing women's rights. And I've basically been responding to each one, and I've pretty much been saying, well, I won't say each one, but the ones that I've seen. And I've pretty much been saying, first of all, what is a woman? I mean, they can't define it. They also are advocating for biological males to go into women's sports and women's spaces like bathrooms and changing rooms and all this other stuff. How can someone of sane mind and body look at these people and not laugh at their utter stupidity? They have literally no idea what they are saying when they are talking about how they have to promote girls and women and push them toward greatness and all of this stuff. And yet at the same breath, they turn around and they say that they can't, they have to allow a biological male who's basically got something going on up here saying that they're a female into those spaces. It just doesn't, it doesn't compute to me. It's a lack, in my mind, it's a lack of common sense. I just don't understand. I don't get it. And yes, Outlaw Dogs, it is International Dog Day as well. Yeah, 3 Chevy says, there you go. Sane mind, not them. Anyway, so moving on to another topic here. Get back on the track of the show here. Just get back on the show here. You remember? I don't know if anybody. Well, some of you probably watched Dan Bongino. I'm not going to assume that Dan Bongino is being watched, although he's got almost 3 million subscribers on Rumble and is constantly in the top 10 for podcasts every week. But he the former Ukraine prosecutor and the former Ukraine president Poroshenko have statements basically saying that they are essentially saying that the Shokin guy himself, and actually Shokin himself makes these same claims, that the Shokin guy was straight up, he was not corrupt, and that kind of stuff. In fact, he went on to a show, according to the Fox News article here. Former Ukraine prosecutor makes explosive claims against Joe and Hunter Biden in a new interview. And he did an interview on Fox News that he said that he was fired during the Obama administration specifically for investigating Burisma. And the energy firm that for those of you that have forgotten by now, whose board Hunter Biden was serving on at the time, during the interview with Brian Kilmeade on Fox News, it's set to air tonight, actually, in about an hour for me, but you over on the East Coast, it's probably already gone. But anyway, said that it was his firm personal conviction that he was fired because then Vice President and Hunter were bribed. Former Ukrainian President Pietro Poroshenko ousted Shokin in 2016, and he was hired only in the year prior due to Shokin's alleged corruption and pressure from the U.S. government led by Biden. Now, the Dan Bongino show has played the audio from Poroshenko that is basically saying that Shokin had no corruption whatsoever and that he fired him specifically because Biden withheld that $1 billion. Yeah. So now Shokin is actually saying the same thing. Now he does admit that he doesn't have any like hard concrete evidence, but that is it is his personal belief for that. And yeah. So it's this whole thing about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, it's unraveling fast. And yeah, it's the worst thing since freaking what do you call it, Watergate. But hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now that there are some things that are going on behind the scenes that are making people start to think that stuff might start swinging back our way. And I try to leave you guys at times at night. I try to give you guys some positives because I mean, I can't just sit here and be a Debbie Downer all the time. That would be crazy. But here's the thing. Even some of the most deep Democrat strongholds are starting to change. They're starting to change their tune. For an example, on X, formerly known as Twitter, CNN has been posting a bunch of articles where they are clearly taking pot shots at Bidenomics. And they're sitting here and they're basically, saying things like, the housing market is stalling. Mortgage rates are going up. The interest rates now are even being talked about going up. I've got an article on that here in just a second. But it's not just the news media, although the news media being the propaganda arm of the DNC, it's not just the news media that's seeing it too. So my sister state to the south, according to this Washington Examiner piece, there was a poll that was done. And my sister state to the south, Oregon, they apparently had a poll done where residents are increasingly support repealing the decriminalization of drugs. Now, for those of you that don't know, down in Oregon, in order to try and take care of, the drug addicts and stuff that are on the streets, and we have, drug addicts in Seattle that are just sitting out on the streets doing drugs. But they apparently are now saying, maybe that wasn't such a smart idea. According to the piece, a majority of Oregon residents support repealing a law that decriminalized hard drugs within the state, a reversal of the position's passage after 3 years. A poll commissioned by the Foundation for Drug Policy Solutions surveyed registered Oregon voters to measure public attitudes toward what's called Measure 110, which was a voter-passed measure in 2020 that decriminalized the possession of hard drugs in favor of expanding addiction treatment options as funded by the state's cannabis tax. Now, cannabis, of course, Oregon went legal with the marijuana, just like Washington and Colorado have, as well as I think California has too, by the way. But anyway, Measure 110 decriminalized small amounts of drugs such as heroin and other street drugs shortly before fentanyl burst onto the scene as a highly addictive and dangerous synthetic opiate alternative. 56% of respondents said they wanted to see Measure 110 repealed completely, while 45% said that the measure should be left as is. Voters also supported repealing parts of the measure to bring back penalties for possessing small amounts of drugs. I guess hey, let's just let the drug addicts do what the drug addicts do, are happy. They're no longer happy about this. The measure has reportedly had adverse effects on the community, according to respondents. 54% of the respondents claimed that it increased homelessness in their communities, while 50% said it decreased the safety in their communities. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, let's see. One piece of the legislation designed to alleviate the knock-on effects of drug use was a small $100 fine for violations, or an opportunity to have the citation dismissed if someone called the state hotline to help them get screened for substance abuse treatment. However, since the law went into effect in February of 2021, 5,540 violations for possession have been filed, and most of the people who have been cited have either ignored the fine or failed to call the hotline. So that whole slap on the wrist is not helping much, huh? Apparently, it was approved by voters in the 2020 elections with a 58% of the vote. So they almost have the same amount that approved the measure in the first case, as opposed to it as a part of this poll. Everything the Democrats touch turns to crap. I think I talked about that. That might have been a couple episodes ago. Oh, and speaking about that, like I was saying, here's Powell. Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned yesterday that we are prepared to raise rates further. Now, for those of you that don't know, what that means is they are going to go and raise the interest rates in order to try and stem inflation. You know that inflation that Biden keeps saying, oh, it's low. And like I keep telling you, yeah, it might be at 3%, but 3% is still double what we were having a problem with before you even came into office. Say that all the time on social media, and even on this program too, by the way. But instead 3% is still going up. It's just not going up quite as fast. Well, Powell now says that additional rate increases might be required to put inflation on a convincing path back to the central bank's 2% target. Because remember, they want to keep inflation actually at 2% or under 2%. It was under 2%. It's something like 1.8 or 1.6 when Biden took office. Powell said in a keynote address at Kansas City Fed's annual conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, he said, although inflation has moved down from its peak, a welcome development, it remains too high. We are prepared to raise rates further if appropriate and intend to hold a policy at a restrictive level until we are confident that inflation is moving substantially down towards our objective. So for those of you that don't remember, I think the current core interest rate right now is at 5.5%. And the inflation or the mortgage rates are getting close to 8%. Those are at their highest in 20 some odd years, 22 years. Powell acknowledged that economic conditions had improved from a year ago. Well, no shit. When the Fed chief used the Jackson Hole conference to warn that taming inflation would likely inflict pain on households and businesses. You think? A year ago, the personal consumption expenditure price index the Fed favors to measure inflation was rising nearly 7% year over year, and the economy had contracted in the first 2 quarters. That was the GDP growth. In June, the PCE price index was up slightly less than 3%. I think it was like 2.8. But anyway, the economy grew at an annual rate of 2% in the first quarter of the year and 2.4% in the second quarter. The consumer price index, the best known measure of inflation, was up 3.2% in July compared with a year ago, and down substantially from last year's rate of 8.5%. But again, keep in mind, 8.5 is going up fast. 3.2 is going up, but not quite as fast. Anyway. So apparently the index is going back up, by the way. It wasn't, it did come down, but then it was scooting up a little more. So. Thank you, guys. Thank you for that. Keep getting reminded to drink. Anyway, so, yeah, this is just, even though the inflation rate and the interest rate and all of that stuff is appearing to come down, it's actually not they seem to forget and they seem to miss out on the points that we have other things that inflation rate doesn't, the inflation rate doesn't measure. For an example, food. Now, I saw this, which this is really an interesting article. I highly suggest that if you have an opportunity to check in the show notes, the description, you go and look at this article. This is out of FGA, FGA.org, and they are claiming that President Biden's unlawful food stamp expansion is costing taxpayers and consumers billions. Apparently, there was an, let me see if it was a report. Let's see. I gotta take a second. Hold on. Yeah, the U.S. Department of Agriculture apparently violated internal control standards, canceled former peer review processes, and even ignored its chief economist to expedite the expansion of the largest permanent increase in food stamp benefits since the program was created, hiking the benefits by an average of 27% in 2021. Apparently, food stamp spending itself has exploded in recent years. You know, I'm not exactly sure, but I wonder if this would, if this has something to do with all of the illegals coming in, giving them food stamps. Anyway, as you can see by this graph, the food stamp spending has skyrocketed since 2019. They show December 2019 at 4.5 billion. December 2020 increased to 7.8 billion. December 2021 went up to 9.9 billion. And then in December of 2022, it went up to 11 billion. And I don't know if it's still going up or not. But now, you know, keep in mind the whole government program of the food stamps and everything else. I mean, that's a huge part of the expenditure. And it's the emergency allotment policy through all, you know, the maximum household receive the maximum monthly benefit or more in some cases, while some of the increased food stamp spending is due to higher enrollment levels. But all of this is pushing up food prices because as those of us who are aware that that we, you know, who are aware of Econ 101, we know that when demand increases and supply decreases, or stays the same, that prices rise with that additional demand. And so this, a lot of people have been saying, and increasingly so, talking about how food prices haven't really dropped any, even though inflation has supposedly dropped. This could be, could be part of the cause. So apparently in the article here, thankfully the emergency allotments expired at the end of February of 2023, but despite that expiration, food stamp spending remains elevated, sitting at $8.6 billion in March of 2023. Worse yet, the CBO estimates that food stamp benefits will cost taxpayers nearly $1.1 trillion over the next decade. Which is apparently a record high. Everything is going up under Biden. Everything is going up under Biden. And yes, 3 Chevy, people think all this stuff is really free. There is no such thing as a free lunch. There is no such thing as a free anything. There is always somebody who will pay the piper for that. Guarantee you on that. Well, to kind of take a shot at the folks who are the climate change advocates. I saw this, and I just had to get a laugh. You remember all those wonderful plastic straws that they got rid of, especially in California? And all of this, everybody had to go to these paper straws, and the paper straws were better for the environment, and so on and so forth. Well, check out this article that came out in the Post Millennial. Apparently there was a study, and yes, you can drink now. There was a study that straws that were made by plant-based materials are not necessarily a more sustainable alternative to the plastic straws, because the paper straws are, get this, not safe for the environment. A new study has revealed that the thought to be eco-friendly alternative to plastic straws made of paper, contain potentially toxic chemicals that could harm people and the environment. According to the study, paper straws contain poly and perfluoroalkyl substance. I'm not even going to try. It's spelled PERFLOU, FLUOROALKYL substances. They shortened it to PFAS, so that's what I'm going to use. Which are long-lasting and potentially destructive to human health with too much exposure. These chemicals were found in the majority of paper and bamboo straws the scientists tested. Dr. Themo Groffen from the University of Antwerp said straws made from plant-based materials, such as paper and bamboo, are often advertised as being more sustainable and eco-friendly than those made from plastics. However, the presence of PFAS in these straws means that is not necessarily true. The team looked at 39 different 39 different straw brands made out of 5 materials: paper, bamboo, glass, stainless steel, and plastic. Out of the straws studied, PFAS were found to be present in almost all types of straws, but primarily in those made from plant-based materials. The study team concluded that stainless steel straws, which are reusable and do not contain PFAS, were the most sustainable. The conclusion of the study adds that straws made from plant-based materials are not necessarily a more sustainable alternative to plastic straws because they can be considered as an additional source of PFAS exposure in humans and the environment. PFAS are used to produce water-resistant products such as in food packaging, water-resistant fabrics, and limited use in cookware. Prolonged exposure to the chemicals have become associated with high blood pressure in pregnant women, increased risk for kidney cancer, and changes in liver enzymes. In recent years, the several U.S. states have placed various levels of bans on plastic straws and have instead encouraged paper straw products to be used. These include California, New York, Washington, D.C., and Colorado. The calls for the ban stemmed from fears that the straws would end up in the ocean and harmed wildlife, such as sea turtles, and started with businesses such as Starbucks, which is based here in Seattle. Oh, so yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Our wonderful things. Oh my gosh. I can't. You know, I've always maintained that there is a cycle, a circle, a yin and a yang, if you will, if I can borrow that, to everything. There is always a positive and negative. Everything in our environment is circular. We always have things that are positives and things that are negatives. You cannot get away from this. It's not something that you can walk away from. And this includes everything in our lifestyle, everything in our lives. You have our gasoline products, our engines, and everything else producing the carbon emissions, but yet the carbon emissions are, a negative output, but they're good for trees. The CO2 emissions, what they call the greenhouse gases. We live in a very cyclical world, and so to sit here and say that one thing is for sure bad for the environment, you have to look at the good. Because it is there. I guarantee you. Everything that we have has both good and bad. Everybody talks about the wind, the solar and wind power, but yet they're not able to be productive in terms of the wind power. You have to change out the blades, and the blades aren't recyclable. And so all we do is we just go and throw them away and cover them up in the dirt. And they get changed out before the ROI on a wind machine actually even before it even comes true. I talked about that on this program a while ago. Everything we have in life is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. And why we don't accept that and understand that and embrace that is beyond me. We have to take the bad with the good. We have to. We can't just sit here and declare and proclaim one thing is always good and no bad. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, that's my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor. Make sure to give a prayer for those 13 souls lost today, 2 years ago, in a military operation that never should have even came to happen. And we will see you on Wednesday, next time on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.